Over the past few days, I've spent some time taking the key lessons out of my first month of recording and posting a podcast daily. There were some fantastic takeaways, and I really have learnt so much just going through this journey so far. But one of the key takeaways was that just showing up alone is not going to start the conversations that I ultimately want to be starting. And then yesterday, I made a key distinction for me, which was separating or making that distinction between marketing activities and sales activities. And I pinpointed that moment where a conversation starts as the point where the sales process kicks in. And I was able to identify that my sales skills are not the priority at the moment. So I made a really important distinction for me that marketing is all the effort that I'm going to put into helping potential customers become aware of who I am and build enough interest and trust to proactively reach out and make an inquiry to me. And this is huge because gaining this added layer of clarity about what this process is all about is exactly what I needed to start thinking about what my marketing strategy or my marketing plan is going to be. And that's what I'll be tackling today. Hello there, Paul Heron here, and welcome to the From Zero to Marketing Hero podcast. This podcast is my personal challenge to myself to show up, to record, to create, to publish a podcast episode every single day for 12 months, all with the aim of finally getting my head around learning some of these marketing strategies and techniques to bring my perfect client into my world on my own terms. So here we are, day number 34. We're well into the second month of this challenge. And for me personally, this really is about moving away from just needing to show up to developing a first draft of a marketing strategy or marketing plan that I will take action on over the next month. I've spent a bit of time this week researching what an effective marketing plan should look like. And there are so many things that we could be considering. For me at the moment, one of the first things that I need to keep coming back to is that I am the beginner at this. I've been calling this a first draft of a marketing plan, and I think that's exactly the way that I want to approach this. My ultimate goal in 12 months' time is to have a plan and a strategy that I have a high level of certainty on in terms of the inputs that I need to take action on, as well as the results that those inputs provide. But I know that to get to that place of certainty, I need to just make a start. During my review of the first month, one of the things that came up was that we can't actually improve a process unless we have a process documented, unless we know what we're intending to do and we've got a way of measuring the results that we're actually achieving. And I think approaching a marketing plan with exactly this mindset is exactly what I need to be doing right now. My certainty level at the moment is extremely low, and as it would be. Whenever we tackle something brand new to us, we can't have any certainty until we give ourselves the opportunity of taking some action and seeing what happens. If last month was about showing up, it was a huge success. I managed to turn up every single day and do the thing that I put my mind to. So my plan for last month was not much more than literally just turning up and recording and posting every day. So although the plan was as basic as that, you could build a case that that actually was my first marketing plan. And I managed to get a tick, and I've come out the other side of that with a newfound awareness that just showing up isn't quite enough, which is awesome. I now know more than I knew a month ago. And now I have the opportunity to start thinking about what the first iteration of a slightly more detailed marketing plan is going to look like. Now, I say slightly more detailed, and I think, again, that's probably the best way to look at it. I am brand new to this, so I like coming back to the school level analogy. Maybe last month was my preschool phase, but this plan that I'm looking to develop now is really nothing more than first level. I don't want it to be too complicated. I don't want it to be overwhelming. I do want to be able to make some small wins in terms of the progress that I'm trying to make, but I also want to have the balance right between challenging myself and just having some structure that's going to enable me to understand what I need to be doing on a daily basis in accordance with the plan. So where do I start? I think the time frame or the time period that the plan applies to is important. Now, I'm at day 34 of this challenge. I started on St. Patrick's Day this year, based over in Ireland, and that made sense for me to start. But what that has led me to is a situation where now I'm a month in. It's kind of an odd date. It's just after the middle of April. And I think this is potentially causing me my first little drama. In my business, I do planning in slightly different ways. If you've been following this podcast, I spoke to the value of weekly planning in a previous episode. I think this particular plan needs to be for a larger period than a week. Now, if this whole project is a 12-month project, what's making sense to me right now is to break that project up into 12 monthly milestones. And I think that would give me the perfect opportunity to track progress, to set some monthly goals. And it's going to give me 11 or 12 opportunities throughout the course of the next 12 months to hopefully start seeing some huge steps forward. Now, it doesn't quite make sense to me to start a monthly plan mid-month. And there is actually quite a bit that I want to have a think about before I actually kick off this plan. Yes, I got some valuable information reflecting on the last month. But some of the questions that have now come up for me out of that are, how detailed do I want this plan to be? You know, even things like, how much time do I have available to allocate to marketing activities over the course of the next month? And I think what I've landed on is that I'm going to spend the next week or so, the next week and a little bit, preparing myself and developing a marketing plan that I'm going to implement on the 1st of May. And I'm going to take action on every single day throughout the course of May and see how it goes. So I don't know exactly what this marketing plan is going to look like just yet. I don't know what that final version will look like, but I do know some of the questions that I do want to answer between now and the 1st of May. And that's what I want to share today. So if I zoom all the way out, I know that what I'm trying to do is understand my ideal perfect client at a deeper level. So one of the things I want to do over the next week or so is take some time out to really understand who this marketing attempt or marketing efforts are for. I've got a pretty good idea. I've done a little bit of work on this over the years. Earlier this year, I did spend quite a lot of time trying to narrow down. But if I'm honest with myself, I think what I've got documented at the moment is still very, very vague. So I want to spend some time over the next week really thinking about specifically who it is that I'm trying to target and what are the specific problems and challenges that they're experiencing. And I think spending some time here is going to be huge because everything else we do stems from this. I see this as something that I'm going to continue to keep coming back to, but I think in terms of this first level marketing plan, it is worthwhile to spend a little bit of time this week really honing in on who these efforts are for. I also want to spend some time this week really thinking through the different levels of activities that I'm trying to work through. Again, I've spent a little bit of time researching marketing strategies, and I like the concept of looking at it as a marketing funnel. At the top of the funnel, there is efforts that I would need to think about to create that initial awareness. In the middle of the funnel, it's more about building rapport and developing trust. And possibly this podcast falls into that category. And at the bottom of the funnel, it's thinking about ways that I can design some products with enough value to be able to create opportunities for my potential client to consider exchanging something of value for what I've got to offer. Now, again, thinking about this from a level 1 or a grade 1 marketing plan, I don't want to overcomplicate this, but I think I do want to start thinking about at least one marketing activity that I can focus some attention on at each of these 3 stages. As I mentioned, that middle phase, that middle building trust and rapport, this podcast might be enough. So promoting this to people who are aware of who I am might be a sound strategy for this particular period. But one thing I haven't been doing much of to this point is that initial awareness. And I think thinking about how I can use social media to my advantage a little bit more is something that could be hugely beneficial. So on my list of things to consider are content creation, and this podcast, or the recording of this podcast, being a huge element in content creation. How I can potentially repurpose some of this content and chop it up into shorts and stories and things like that I can use on social media to start increasing a bit of awareness. So there's a content creation plan. I also want to develop a social media posting strategy. This is something that I've always been very ad hoc in terms of showing up to social media and posting. And I think I would benefit enormously from having a little bit of structure, having a set plan, and trying to find ways for me to show up and stick to that plan. So I think that is an important element for me to consider when determining that marketing plan for May. The other thing that I want to spend a little bit of time thinking through is how I can set some specific goals for me to work towards. I don't want to set vague goals. I don't want to just say, I would like to get more social media interactions, for example. I want to be a little bit more specific in terms of the goals that I set, so that when I get to the end of May, I can clearly determine whether I've hit these goals or not. And these goals will help me on a day-to-day basis determine exactly what I need to do to give myself the best chance of hitting these monthly targets. So again, not to overcomplicate this, but to have at least 1, 2, 3 maybe really specific goals for me to work towards. And I don't know at this stage exactly what they will be, but I do think it is important to have something to work towards. And lastly, the last thing I want to have a look at is anything that I can stop doing, or potentially anything else that I can add. I'm a bit reluctant to add new things. I feel like there is quite a few pieces of the puzzle that I'm already dabbling in. I feel like I have gone to various different social media channels, for example, ad hocly, but at least once or twice throughout the course of the last period. And I really feel like there might be some value in narrowing down a little bit and really focusing a lot more time and energy into a much more specific set of actions. So I'm not sure whether any of that makes any sense at all. It kind of makes sense to me. It's giving me a lot to think about. I'm really excited about testing out a few things starting from now. But the goal over the next week or so really is to develop a document, something that's no longer circling around in my head, but something that I've taken the time to outline specifically what my plan is for May. And then I want to give it my absolute best shot to do everything that I can to show up and take the actions that are going to help move that needle forward. And like I went through in my review yesterday, I'm looking forward to getting started. I'm looking forward to having a plan and taking the action. But in some ways, I'm also looking forward to that review process at the end of May, because I know that if I get this planning part right, the lessons that I'm going to be able to take out of the end of May are going to be huge. And I can already visualize if I can go through this process every month for the next 12 months, the sky really is the limit. You know, I can see enormous strides being taken, and it's really exciting. I can't wait to get started. So I might leave it there for today. Like always, I'd love to hear your feedback. Do you think I'm still overcomplicating it? Do you think for a first grade marketing strategy, marketing plan, maybe I'm still overthinking this and thinking too much? But the thing is, I just won't know. I just need to come up with whatever I think is the appropriate plan in the next week or so. I need to get started on the 1st of May, and I just need to give it my best shot to come out the other side with a ton of lessons that are just going to help build this momentum and keep me taking strides forward. So if you're getting value from this podcast, please consider giving the show a like. If you're really resonating with the show, please consider giving a comment. I know these things really do contribute to the show being delivered and shown to a wider audience, which would be hugely beneficial. If you do want to start a conversation, you can head over to my website. It's paulheronlifecoaching.com. There's a ton of information there. You can get in contact with me directly. You can make an inquiry about becoming a guest on the show, and you can join the Facebook group, which is the perfect place to start these conversations. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and until tomorrow, bye for now.